หัวหน้าบอกทำความเคารพหน่อยลูกนะคะก็สวัสดีนักเรียนทุกคนนะในที่นี้นะคะก็คือของห้องเรา1/5นะคะวันนี้ก็เป็นวันแรกนะนักเรียนที่มีการออกอากาศนะเราก็ได้พบเห็นเพื่อนต่างโรงเรียนนะที่ร่วมเรียนกับเราด้วยนะคะนะก็มีโรงเรียนอะไรบ้างคะโรงเรียนอะไรบ้างคะแม่สลิดหลวงแม่สลิดหลวงยกมือเลยค่ะได้ยินไหมคะทุกคนได้ยินเนาะ
ได้ยินค่ะ
ดีมากค่ะนักเรียนนะคะโรงเรียนบ้านหนองแดงได้ยินไหมคะได้ยินไหมลูกกำลังเข้ามาเนาะหนองแดงกำลังเข้ามาได้ยินนะคะโอเคนะคะเรียนไปแล้วครึ่งวันเนาะวันนี้ครึ่งบ่ายก็เป็นวิทยาศาสตร์นะคะวันนี้คุณนักเรียนก็จะได้เรียนกับทิเชอร์นะชื่อว่าทิเชอร์เทเวอร์นะคะนักเรียนกล่าวคำทักทายทิเชอร์หน่อยค่ะเรา
Good afternoon, class. How are you? Right. Good afternoon, class over there. My name is Teacher Trevor. Thank you. Okay. Right. Okay, for today, our today's lesson, we are going to be looking at we are going to be looking at unicellular and multicellular organisms. Can we pay attention, please? Okay. Today, we are going to have our lesson on unicellular and multicellular organisms. If you remember, in our previous lessons, we were talking about atoms in chemistry, saying atoms are the smallest unit of matter. Remember, atoms are the smallest unit of matter. And now we are into biology. We are going to be looking at cell, which is the basic unit of any living organism. We are going to be looking at cells, which are basic units of living organism. So this is our topic. Unicellular and multicellular organisms. Yes. You can take down notes. You can take down notes. So what we are doing now, we have basically two types of organisms that we can talk about. One, it is made up of a single cell. And the other type of organism is made up of two or more cells. So the term I'm going to explain as we are going to look at our vocabulary. We are now going to the vocabulary section so that we understand our topic better. We have to know the names or the terms that we are going to be using today. So unicellular and multicellular organisms. Right, on our vocabulary section, can we pay attention? I want you to say these words after me. Right, the first word is organisms. Can we all say together, organisms? Again? Organisms. Right. So we also need to understand the meaning. An organism is an individual, animal, plant, or single-celled life. That's what an organism is. Then we go on to the next word, Microscopic. Microscopic. Are we together? Can we say microscopic? I can't hear you. All of us, microscopic. Right, don't worry, we'll write later. Then, microscopic is anything that we cannot see with our eyes. We need something to magnify to make it bigger. Micro means something tiny, small, like what we're talking about, atoms. It's so tiny that you can't see it. We need something to enlarge, to make it bigger for us to see. So, microscopic, it means so small as to be visible only with a microscope. I'm going to show you what a microscope looks like later. Then we have the word macroscopic. Macroscopic. Together, macroscopic. Yes, come on, let's say, can we participate? Macroscopic. Yes, macro is different from micro. Micro, it means small. Macro, it means something big. Micro is something we can see with our eyes. It's visible to the naked eye. We don't need anything to magnify it. Then we have got the word unicellular. Unicellular. Can we all say it together? Oh, come on. Unicellular. Right. It means made up of a single cell. It's something that is made up of a cell, one cell. It's uni, it is one. It means one, and we say that's non. One cell. Then we've got multicellular. Multicellular. Can you all say it together? Multicellular. It is opposite of uni. Uni, it's one. Multi, it means many, which means it's made of two or more cells, okay? So having or consisting many cells, like human beings, right? We've got the next word is lifespan. Lifespan. Together? Yeah, let's be lively. Lifespan. Right, it means the length of time something can exist or something can function. We'll explain later. Then the next one is life process. Life process. Life process. Right, I hope the classes out there, you are also following these words. Life process, it means what an organism do for it to live. That is digestion, nutrition, the relationship, and reproduction. When it reproduces itself, that is what we call life process. Is the propagation of any being. Now, the last word is division of labor. Division of labor. Division of labor. Together, division of labor. Again, division of labor. Right, this is when we give multitasking, separation of work that is done by different cells in the body. When we talk about multicellular organisms, they've got division of labor because each type of cell has got a special functioning. Right. I will change my slide. Then we will go on to review some Right, the next thing that we are going to look at, before we look at this, I'm going to switch over to some videos so that we understand what we are talking about. Right, so I'm going to show you a video that is showing us unicellular organisms. We are now viewing a video on unicellular organisms.
Many living organisms, such as plants and animals, that we can see with our eyes are made up of many, many cells, sometimes millions of cells, and these are called multicellular organisms. There are
Right, let's listen. Here they are saying these kind of organisms, plants or animals, are living organisms. Those that we can see are what we call multicellular organisms. We can see them, like these plants and the animals here. We can see them with our eyes. We don't need anything to magnify, like a magnifying glass, to see them. So we call them multicellular. Okay? We call them multicellular because we can see them with our eyes. Right? Then we have the unicellular.
Our eyes are made up of many, many cells, sometimes millions of cells, and these are called multicellular organisms. There are also many living organisms that exist as a single cell. These are referred to as either single-celled organisms or unicellular organisms.
Right, these are now the unicellular organisms. We cannot see them with our naked eye. We need to take a microscope, put them under a microscope. I want you, can someone help me to just share? I've got these 10. Let's share. Someone come, you give the people. Yeah, give everyone, the few that can use them. Just one day, one day, one day. Okay, and these ones, just distribute. Hey, come on, some you can take these ones. I want you to take them out. Yeah, you give. Now quickly, please. Do we have the page? Yeah, this one in their textbooks. Yeah, take out the magnifying glass. I want you to look at the amoeba, the amoeba. Right, so this one makes things bigger so that we are able to see them, right? So unicellular, you cannot see them without the help of a gadget that magnifies, that makes it bigger for us to be able to see. All right? So let's continue with our video.
And as they are single cells, we cannot see them with our eyes and we would need a microscope to see them. In this video, we are going to look at 4 different examples of unicellular organisms. The first unicellular organism we will look at is the bacterium.
Right. The bacterium, if it is one, when there are many bacteria, this is an example of a unicellular organism. We cannot see it with our eyes, but it can make us sick. A bacteria can make people sick. We cannot see it by our eyes, but it's there in the air or even on the ground or in water. It's one example of unicellular.
The plural of bacterium is bacteria. This cell has many similar features to those of the animal and plant cells we've looked at previously. You might be able to pick out a few of these,
Let's now put
including the
those.
cell membrane,
Let's put those things down.
cytoplasm, ribosome.
Okay, we can put down our. Let's put this down and watch the video, please.
And the cell wall. You may notice, however, that the bacterium does not have a nucleus. Instead, its genetic information is shared in two places. There is a ring of DNA called a DNA plasmid, and there is also a strand of loose DNA. Some, but not all bacteria, also have a flagellum for movement. The second cell that we will look at, that exists as a single cell, is yeast.
Right. Yeast is another example of unicellular organism. Yeast is another example of unicellular organisms. We talked about bacterium, and now we have yeast. Okay, please take note of the words of the unicellular organisms.
Yeast is a type of fungus, and you'll probably be able to recognise many of the same features that you will find in animal or plant cells, including a cell membrane, a nucleus, mitochondria, a vacuole, cytoplasm, ribosomes, and a cell wall. The next single-celled organism is the amoeba. In similarity,
Right. The third one that we have is the amoeba. Is another unicellular organism. Let's take note of that. Let's not be worried about the parts. We are going to talk about them next week when we look at the cells per se. But you look at this one, it's just a living organism on its own. It's a cell that exists on its own. It eats its food. It doesn't have any other digestion system. So take note that a unicellular is a living organism that does all the functions of eating, reproducing, without any other cells. It's just a single cell that does everything.
with animal and plant cells, it has a cell membrane, a nucleus, and cytoplasm.
Okay.
In addition, it also has a contractile vacuole, food vacuole, to tensions around the amoeba are called pseudopods, and they are for movement or to engulf food. So the amoeba will extend to travel towards food and will then eat by surrounding it and absorbing it. And finally, the euglena also exists as a unicellular organism.
Right. Euglena is another form of unicellular organisms. So we have already talked about 4 different types of unicellular organisms. All right. I'm sure you are taking down the names, please. The names of the unicellular activity.
It has mitochondria, cytoplasm, a nucleus, cell membranes. In addition, it also has an eye spot to detect light, a flagellum for movement.
Okay, now we have the examples of unicellular organisms. Please, I want you to remember the names because I'm going to give you a task. We talked about the bacterium, we had yeast, which other one? Amoeba, euglena. Okay, so we are now moving on to the next video. so that we get to know exactly the difference.
Living organisms, such as plants and animals, are highly structured systems. In this video, we're going to look at the levels of organisation in multicellular systems, starting at the cellular level. The first level of organisation is cells. Cells are specialised to carry out a particular function, and in a previous video, we looked at some of these specialised cells.
Right, so we are now looking at the multicellular organism. We said multi, it means many. The multi-organism, we take, for example, us as human beings, we are multicellular organisms. We have got different cells which perform different jobs in the body. We've got a muscle cell, we've got red blood cells, white blood cells. We have the synaptic cells that perform different tasks in the human body. That's why we call them multi. It means many. They are different and different tasks. Like what we're talking about, division of labor. They operate differently for the propagation of the human being. So they are multitasking. They do different tasks. That's why we call them multicellular.
The next level up is tissues. A tissue is a group of similar cells working together to perform a particular function. For example, here we have a muscle cell, and a muscle tissue would be a group of muscle cells working together.
Right, we now look at the combination of cells performing a task. Here we have got the tissue for muscles. When they are grouped together, it becomes what we call tissue. The tissue that we can see is now a cluster of cells performing a single task.
Together to contract and relax to cause movement at a particular joint, for example. Other examples of tissues include the blood, as well as nervous tissue. The next level up is an organ. An organ is a group of different tissues working together to perform a particular function. For example, here we've got a diagram of the stomach, and the stomach is an example of an organ.
Right, we now look at a human body anatomy. Here we are looking at the stomach, which is inside the human tummy. It is made up of different tissues which are made of different cells to perform different tasks. Each type or group of cells make up tissue for different purposes. One can be used for the chemical digestion of food. The other one is for contraction and movement of food in the gut system. That's why we call them multicellular. So these
examples of some tissues within the stomach are the epithelial tissue that covers the inside and outside of the stomach, glandular tissue that releases digestive juices, and muscular tissue that contracts to churn the food. So these three tissues and many more will work together to perform digestion within the stomach. Other examples of organs include the heart, the kidney, and the lungs. The next level up is the organ system. An organ system is a group of different organs working together to perform a particular function. An example of this would be the digestive system. That is made up of several different...
Right, so I think we'll end here for the video. We are now seeing an organism which has got multicellular, It has got different cells which are at different levels with different tasks. Okay? the human body. Here we've got the digestion system, which is made of different cells. Now, I think we are done with our video. We are now coming back to our notes. We now want to classify our different types of cells. As we said, we have got unicellular organisms. How do we identify unicellular organisms? These type of organisms are made of one cell. I want people to take down notes. You can use your phones. They have a simple internal structure. It's only made of one structure. Like we see amoeba, the bacteria is just one. But if you look at the human, it's a body which is made up of different parts of the body. This one is only one unit of structure. Right. These are generally found in water and land habitats. Okay, these organisms perform life activities such as eating, digesting, moving, and production. It does everything on its own. It doesn't have a stomach, it doesn't have mouth, but it's a wholesome structure which does everything on its own. Examples, I've given you the amoeba, paramecium, chlorella, diatoms, and the bacterium that we talked about. All these are examples of unicellular organisms. Remember, we said it's a single structure which does everything. It eats, it digests, it also reproduces on its own as a single structure. Then when we look at multicellular organisms now, these are organisms that have more than one cell, as we said. We gave an example of a human being. Human beings are one of the most complex multicellular organisms. I think we can go back to our video a little bit. As you see, you can see on the diagram there, this is multicellular organism. It has got different parts which perform different tasks. It's different from the unicellular organism, which is a bacteria or amoeba, which is just one. Okay, we'll go back again to our camera. Right, human beings have around 37.2 trillion cells that make up the body. You can see how complex a human being is. We are human beings. We are made up of more than 37 trillion cells. You are made up of more than 37 trillion cells. That's why we call you a multicellular organism. Right. Specialized cells in human body, okay, that perform specific tasks are muscles, nerve cells, and blood cells. We also have the reproductive cells like the female ovary and the male sperm. There is the egg that is embedded in a female. It's also a cell which performs a specialized task of reproduction. Right. We have other examples of multicellular organisms such as seaweed, the weeds that we see in water, in the rivers, mushroom that we eat, fungi, plants, and other animal species are all multicellular. We take, for example, dogs, cattle, pigs are all multicellular. The trees outside are multicellular. Do we get that? Okay. Now I'm going to take and look at the difference now. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick rundown of this one. I don't know whether it's fitting. Is it clear out there? Is our focus all right? Okay, maybe we may start with the... All right. Right, here we are only talking, we want to show the difference. Now, what is the difference between the other difference that we can see? Right, in terms of lifespan, the multicellular or unicellular or single cell, it lives for a short time. It lives for a short time. It has got a shorter lifespan. The lifespan of a unicellular is very short. But when we look at the lifespan of a multicellular or more than one cell, it lives longer, like human beings. Like other animals that we see around, they can live for years. So the difference is one has got a shorter lifespan, the other one has got a longer lifespan. Then we'll move on to the next one. We look at the size and visibility. When you're talking about size, how big something is, visibility is whether we can see it with our eyes or not. We see that unicellular or single cell organisms are of smaller size, that most of them are even not visible to the naked eye. That's why we said we'll need something like a magnifying glass, like a microscope, for us to be able to see unicellular organisms. We need something that magnifies them to make them big. Then for multicellular or more than one cell, these ones are usually visible to the naked eye. They are big. Then we will look at the division of labor. The work divisions in the unicellular organisms are on the organelle level. That is within the nucleus, within the cell itself. All the task of eating food, digesting it, and excreting and reproducing are within the organelle. Then when we look at the multicellular organism on division of labor, the work division in the multicellular organism is on the tissue, organ, and system level. Like what I was showing you on the video there, where we said we come from the cell to the tissue to the organ, and the organ system, then the whole body. All of them work for the same purpose of propagating the existence of an organism, but each group of cells have got a special task that we call division of labor. Then we move on life processes. The single available cells carry out all of the life processes in the unicellular organism. They do all the things that make them exist within it. But when we look at the multicellular organism, it has specialized cells to perform different tasks. Each group of cells have got a special task that it performs for the existence of the organism. So to sum up what we are talking about, as our time is running, Right. This is the summary of what we're talking about. I hope. Our lights, is it okay? Maybe, yeah, I might get some assistance on the light. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Right, so let's listen now. We can take down this. You can take a pic on your phone. You can use your phone just to take a pic. Then you write down the notes later. Right, this is just a summary of the difference between the two types of cells. What we have been talking about, the summary is composed on this diagram. It shows us the differences. Then on the intersection of the two sets, we have what is common, like the DNA, RNA is peculiar or it's common on both type of cells or organisms. But on the other side, we've got the differences that you need to take care of. I will not repeat them because we've already covered that. Now, I'm going to give you a task to do in your groups. Let's see how much time we have left. Okay, maybe I might just give you one more video to sum up what we're doing before we round up. Okay, let's just view this one.
Hello friends, welcome to a new Happy Learning video. Today we're going to learn about unicellular and multicellular living organisms. We already know that all living beings are made up of cells, but many of them are formed by a single cell. They are called micro or unicellular organisms. Although they are very simple organisms, they live independently. That is, they perform all the vital functions by themselves. Do you remember what those functions are? Very good. Nutrition, relationship, and reproduction. Examples of unicellular beings are bacteria and protozoa. Some of these organisms are capable of manufacturing their own food, but most feed on other living beings. They are so small that they can only be seen through a microscope, which is why they are called microbes or microorganisms. The truth is that they are a little bad for us human beings because they cause disease. But others are very beneficial, as those who turn milk into yogurt or cheese. So good.
Okay, here they are saying, we are talking about unicellular organisms, and they are saying some of them make us sick. They give us diseases. While some are good for us because they help produce things that we eat, like cheese and yogurt. Yes, they are microorganisms that help the production of cheese and yogurt. So some are harmful, some are good for us. Okay?
Living organisms that are formed by more than one cell are called multicellular, such as plants or animals. All the cells of these organisms are alive. They feed on the substances they take through the membrane, and they reproduce by increasing in size and dividing in two. Besides, many can move. The cells are very diverse and are grouped into biological tissues, depending on their shape and function. Two examples of biological tissues are epithelial tissue, skin, and muscle tissue, our muscles. These organs, in turn, are grouped into systems, such as the respiratory system or the digestive system. Well, friends, now you know about unicellular and multicellular beings. Easy, huh?
Is it easy now? Do you know now understand the difference between unicellular and multicellular organisms? Do we understand? Do we know the difference? I'm sure we have got the difference that unicellular are single, multicellular have got many. Unicellular, they do everything, the life processes within the same cell, while it's multicellular have got different multi-organs that perform different roles to propagate the existence of an organism. So for your task as a group, because we cannot just go without doing something, I'm going to group you. You are going to work on this task. It's a simple one. I want you to identify 5 unicellular organisms that we talked about in this lesson and 5 multicellular organisms that you have learned in this lesson. I've given you names of different cellular organisms and multicellular organisms. I want you to write them down. I'm going to give you, I want to make 10 groups. As we are rounding up, we are only left with about 7 minutes in our lesson, if I'm not mistaken. Is that so, ma'am? We are left with 7 minutes. Time, 7 minutes left. Okay. I want you to identify 5 unicellular organisms. It's a simple task. You also write 5 multicellular organisms. Come on. Let's see. You write the names. You write the names of the unicellular organism that we talked about. Right, I'll help you. One, we say there's bacteria. Bacteria is one example of unicellular. Bacteria is one example. I've given you one example. I've given you examples, one unicellular, one multicellular. I want you to write the others. Let's hurry, just have 1 minute. 1 minute, please. Okay, now because our time is almost up, I'll give you, we said we've got the yes, we've got the amoeba, we've got yeast, diatoms. We also have even fungi. There are many. Here we can even talk about cats, trees, mushroom, and seaweed. Okay, so these are the examples of unicellular and multicellular. Next time, we are going to look at the differences. You must go and study the differences. So for today, I'm sure we are done with our lesson. This brings us to the end of our lesson. Can you please bring back the magnifying glass, please? Okay, thank you, class. Good day. Thank you. Bye over there. All right, good day.